Good morning, 5th grade. Today we're going to begin our performance task, which is a biographical essay about a Civil War leader. And so option 2 is Ulysses S. Grant. So if you are listening to this, it means you have chosen to write your essay on Ulysses S. Grant. And the focus question we're trying to answer is, how did the generals in the Civil War make an impact on American history? We have some vocabulary words before we get started. The first one is revere. That's when you show deep respect for someone. And so we could draw a line to this picture. Synonyms for revere are liked or respected. The second word is distinguished. That refers to someone who is successful. They command great respect. And so we will draw a line to this picture. This officer is distinguished. He has a lot of medals that show he's successful and that he deserves respect. And then the last one is demerit. That's when you get like a mark for doing something wrong. So an example in our class, like a demerit would be like a level. And if you get demerits, sometimes you get detention. So draw a line to this picture. All right, we're going to begin reading in the first source. You will need to incorporate at least 2 sources into your essay. And so the first source is an article about Ulysses S. Grant's life, and it says Ulysses S. Grant Biography. And as I'm reading, you can pause the read aloud to answer the following questions. And notice that your notes, look at the headings in the notes so you know which heading you can find the answers in your text. For example, the first one has a how or why question and the main idea. I know I'm going to get that from the introduction. The second box has to do with younger years. Everything in this box would be in the section younger years. Box 3 is about early career. So all the questions in this box would be found in early career. All right, so we're going to start reading. I am not going to tell you where the answers are. I would suggest that you press pause after I finish reading each section to go back and find the answers. All right, we will begin at the top with the introduction. I would go ahead and ask my how or why question about Ulysses S. Grant so that I can find the main idea. Press pause to write down your question and play when you're ready to start reading. Ulysses S. Grant served as U.S. General and Commander of the Union armies during the late years of the American Civil War, later becoming the 18th U.S. President. Ulysses S. Grant was born on April 27, 1822, in Point Pleasant, Ohio. He was entrusted with command of all U.S. armies in 1864 and relentlessly pursued the enemy during the Civil War. In 1869, at age 46, Grant became the youngest president yet. Though Grant was highly dependable, his administration was not as trustworthy. After leaving the presidency, he commissioned the famous author Mark Twain to publish his best-selling memoirs. Press pause to write down your answer for the main idea. You may need to go back and reread and play when you're ready for the next section. It's called Younger Years. President Ulysses S. Grant was born Hiram Ulysses Grant on April 27, 1822, in Point Pleasant, Ohio, near the mouth of the Big Indian Creek at the Ohio River. His famous nickname, U.S. Grant, came after he joined the military. A year after Grant was born, his family moved to Georgetown, Ohio, and had what he described as an uneventful childhood. He did, however, show great skill as a horseman in his youth. Grant did not stand out in his youth. Shy and reserved, he took after his mother rather than his outgoing father. He hated the idea of working in his father's tannery business, a fact that his father didn't like to acknowledge. When Grant was 17, his father arranged for him to enter the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. A clerical error had listed him as Ulysses S. Grant. Not wanting to be rejected from the school, he changed his name on the spot. Grant didn't excel at West Point, earning average grades and receiving several demerits for sloppy dress and tardiness, and ultimately decided that the academy had no charms for him. He did well in mathematics and geology and excelled in horsemanship. In 1843, he graduated 21st out of 39 and was glad to be out. He planned to resign from the military after he served his mandatory 4 years of duty. Press pause to go back and reread or re-listen to younger years and answer the questions in box 2. Press play when you're ready to read early career. After graduation, Lieutenant Ulysses S. Grant was stationed at St. Louis, Missouri, where he met his future wife, Julia Dent. Grant proposed marriage in 1844, and Julia accepted. Before the couple could wed, however, he was shipped off for duty. During the Mexican-American War, Grant served as quartermaster, efficiently overseeing the movement of supplies. Serving under General Zachary Taylor and later under General Winfield Scott, he closely observed their military tactics and leadership skills. After getting the opportunity to lead a company into combat, Grant was praised for his bravery under fire. He also developed strong feelings that the war was wrong and that it was being waged only to increase America's territory for the spread of slavery. In 1854, Ulysses S. Grant moved his family back to Missouri, but the return to civilian life led him to a low point. He tried to farm land that had been given to him by his father-in-law, but this attempt was unsuccessful, and it was nearly impossible for him to get and keep a job. To support his family, he was reduced to selling firewood on a St. Louis street. Finally, in 1860, he humbled himself and went to work in his father's tannery business as a clerk, supervised by his 2 younger brothers. Press pause to write down your answers for early career and play when you're ready for American Civil War begins. On April 13, 1861, Confederate troops attacked Fort Sumter in Charleston Harbor, South Carolina. This act of rebellion sparked Ulysses S. Grant's patriotism, and he volunteered his military services. Again, he was initially rejected, but with the help of the Illinois congressman, he was appointed to command a regiment. Applying lessons he had learned from his commanders during the Mexican-American War, Grant saw that his regiment was combat ready by September 1861. In February 1862, in a joint operation with the U.S. Navy, Grant's ground forces applied pressure on Fort Henry and Fort Donelson, taking them both. These battles are credited as the earliest significant Union victories of the American Civil War. After the assault on Fort Donelson, Grant earned the nickname Unconditional Surrender Grant and was promoted to Major General of Volunteers. Press pause to write down your answers in American Civil War Begins and play when you're ready for important battles. Union war strategy called for taking control of the Mississippi River and cutting the Confederacy in half. In December 1862, Grant tried to take Vicksburg, a key fortress city of the Confederacy, but his attack was stopped by Confederate cavalry raider Nathan Belford Forrest. In his second attempt, Grant crossed south of Vicksburg. Failing to take the city after several assaults, he settled into a long siege, and Vicksburg finally surrendered to him on July 4, 1863. Though Vicksburg marked both Grant's greatest achievement so far and a moral boost for the Union, the rumors of Grant's heavy drinking followed him through the rest of the Western campaign. Turn the page. Grant suffered from intense migraine headaches due to stress, which nearly disabled him and only helped to spread rumors of his drinking, as many chalked up his migraines to frequent hangovers. However, his closest associates said he was serious and polite, and that he displayed deep concentration even in the midst of a battle. In October 1863, Grant took command of Chattanooga, Tennessee. The following month, from November 22nd to November 25th, Union forces routed Confederate troops in Tennessee at the battles of Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge, known collectively as the Battle of Chattanooga. The victories forced the Confederates to retreat into Georgia, ending the siege of the vital railroad junction in Chattanooga. Press pause to write down your answers to the questions in the box Important Battles, and play when you're ready for War Ends in Union Victory. Ulysses S. Grant saw the military objectives of the Civil War differently than most of the people before him, who believed that capturing territory was most important to winning the war. Grant strongly believed that taking down the Confederate armies was most important to the war effort, and to that end set out to track down and destroy General Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia. From March 1864 until April 1865, Grant relentlessly hunted for Lee in the forests of Virginia, all the while inflicting unsustainable casualties on Lee's army. On April 9, 1865, Lee surrendered his army, marking the end of the Civil War. The two generals met at a farm near the village of Appomattox Courthouse, and a peaceful agreement was signed. In a generous gesture, Grant allowed Lee's men to keep their horses and return to their homes, taking none of them as prisoners of war. Press pause to write down your answers in War Ends in Union Victory, and play when you're ready for final years. The presidency talks about how Grant became president. During post-war reorganization, Ulysses S. Grant was promoted to full general and oversaw the military portion of Reconstruction. Then in 1868, Grant was elected to the 18th President of the United States. When he entered the White House the following year, Grant was not only politically inexperienced, he was, at the age of 46, the youngest president yet. Though extremely honest, Grant became known for appointing people who were not of good character. Because of these scandals, Grant served only 2 terms as president. And now we're in final years. After leaving the White House, Ulysses S. Grant's lack of success at normal life continued once again. He became a partner of the financial firm Grant and Ward, only to have his partner, Ferdinand Ward, steal investors' money. The firm went bankrupt in 1884, as did Grant. That same year, Grant learned he was suffering from throat cancer, and though his military pension was reinstated, he had very little money. Grant began selling short magazine articles about his life and then negotiated a contract with a friend, famed novelist Mark Twain, to publish his memoirs. The 2-volume set went on to sell some 300,000 copies, becoming a classic work of American literature. Ultimately, the work earned Grant's family $450,000. Ulysses S. Grant died on July 23, 1885, just as his memoirs were being published, at the age of 63, in Mount McGregor, New York. He was buried in New York City. Press pause to write down your answers in final years, and then you'll need to go back over the entire text and answer questions for box 8.